Let me introduce you to the process. I will start first by the flow of the process. Secondly, I'll walk through the core clarity key that lists all the strengths in the quadrants and how we use that to triage or identify what this project needs. And thirdly, I'll show you how we recruit from the bench of strengths in the organization, and then we'll wrap this up. So let me pull up first the flow diagram. So I'm going to move over to the side so you can see the flow diagram. This diagram looks very much like the process of defining the needs of a project. We start off at the very top in the upper left and define the needs of the project. We look at the different functional roles that we need to address this project. Then we define the desired outcomes. Now it's in the second flow or the second column that we begin to shift the dynamic. Now we begin to look at the problem through the specific strengths that might be best suited to solve this. And we go through a brainstorming process to look at what are all the strengths that might be valuable on this project. And then we sift it down and we force ourselves to choose. And there's good reason for us to do that. And I'll wait until I bring up the core clarity key to explain what it actually looks like. In addition to the strengths, we look at the skills or the subject matter expertise that might be needed on this particular project. And then finally, there's other success factors that we have to factor in. For example, a management champion or some oversight that might be needed. Now in the next column, we begin to go through that bench. And again, I'll show you an example of a spreadsheet that shows the bench of an organization. So we look for individuals that have the specific strengths that we need in the right combinations. And so we also look for the leadership role called a stabilizer or an enhancer that has strengths in all four of the quadrants. Our experience has shown that stabilizers add a specific element that help the team function naturally better. And as you can see, the bottom element are the time issues. The reason why time is important is that if you need something very quickly, then you want people with strengths like activator or strategic or achiever that are naturally drawn to taking quick action. However, if it's longer or if it's more complex, and again, this gets back to the first column of defining what the project parameters are, then you would need a different mix of strengths that would be best suited to handle something that was more complex or had higher risk. So that's part of this new way of looking at how do we put teams together. Now, once we've completed the analysis and we've selected the members, we will bring them in and then give them the overview or the context of the project and tell them specifically why they were chosen to be part of this. And we will also ask them, because what we want to make sure is that people want to be part of this process as well. So we don't want to exclude. At the same time, we don't want to force individuals on this. And then we launch the teams. This is exactly the process that the company that manufactures athletic equipment went through to come up with their process. And now, because of the pandemic, and we've discovered that working from anywhere is feasible, this gives us whole new opportunities to look at how do we optimize the teams handling the projects that we're doing, and how do we accelerate the process of getting through this backlog that we always live with. Wouldn't it be great to have teams that are highly motivated, that have complementary skills and can work collaboratively to tackle this kind of work? Remember that the traditional departments that we have and the traditional way that we manage work, that up to 70% of people really are just going through the motions. They are not coming to work giving you their best effort. The byproduct of the company that implemented this found that their engagement levels, as the president said, went through the roof, and people were highly motivated to take part in these teams because they were getting tangible work done that was valuable to the organization, and they were also learning and developing an ethos of how to work across traditional lines more easily, and so it improved the entire organization by being able to do this. So now let's look at the core clarity key, and I'll walk you through a scenario on how we define a project through the lens of looking at the different strengths. The core clarity key identifies all of the strengths and the quadrants they fit into. When I facilitate a team going through this, I will start out by simply drawing a big circle with the 4 quadrants on a flip chart. And I begin in the upper left-hand quadrant, and I systematically work through each quadrant and all of the potential strengths before I move to the next quadrant to make sure we don't miss any. So let's start with the upper left-hand quadrant. I will start with one of the issues, the biggest issue that this company was facing. Their insurance premium was going to be increased 30%, which meant they would probably have to cancel the insurance for the employees. Now, this was a manufacturing company, and half of the individuals in the company spoke English as a second language. So we had an interesting experiment to work with here. The company felt if they could keep the premium increase to 10%, that they could keep insurance for everybody. If we look in the blue quadrant, what are some of the strengths you might pick? Would you pick responsibility, that sense of ownership, the need, taking care of our people? Would you use communication as a strength in order to improve awareness of what we were doing, why we were doing it, and getting buy-in in some of the trade-offs we might have to make? So that's an interesting opportunity, and the first round is simply to brainstorm what's possible. But here's an important teaching part of it as well. When somebody picks the strength, I ask them why. And the why is very important because they may just simply say something generic like, because we need to talk to a lot of people. I will take them back to the material and ask them to pick specifically a sentence or a bullet point from that strength that communicates why they think this is important. So there's 2 reasons we're doing this. One, to be pinpointed about what strengths we're using and why, and to help them learn the definitions behind these strengths. So now we move to the right-hand quadrant, and those are the motivational strengths called mobilize. So which of these strengths do you think is necessary? Would competition be a good strength? Because it knows what winning is. And if a 10% increase is success, is winning, maybe that's a strength we want on the team. Or maybe we want developer on the team because we need to improve the education and nurture our people to better health in order to reduce premiums. There is no right or wrong answer. It's the leadership team getting their heads around the parameters and looking at a problem through the strengths is very clarifying in terms of what you're trying to accomplish and how you want to go about accomplishing it. Now we move to the bottom 2 quadrants, and I go to the bottom right. And those are the action or get or done. They're called energized strengths. So is this a quick turnaround where we want something like activator? Or is this something that we really need to drill into and it's going to be very tedious and detailed? We might need something like discipline or focus. Again, it's the conversation. And someone will suggest in this brainstorming process which strength and why. And as each person offers that strength idea and the reason why, we're understanding more and more what the nature of the challenge is and how we're going about trying to solve it. And then finally, there's the cognitive or the green bottom left-hand quadrant. Those are called the reflex strengths. So do we need a strength that's analytical because we have to look at insurance policies? Do we need something strategic because we have to narrow and focus in those few things that offer the best results? Again, no right or wrong answer. And this first round is primarily brainstorming, understanding the reasons behind the selections, and getting a better handle on the problem in general. Then we will go through a second round, and the second round reduces these down to the most important few, the top 5 to 7 strengths that are essential to make this successful. One of the primary reasons behind this second phase is not only to get it down to those few strengths that will make the biggest difference, but also to have the harder conversation about trade-offs. Why would you pick this one over that one? And again, this is part of that refining process. There's no right or wrong answer in this. It's the conversation and it's the thinking that really makes the difference. So now that we've gone through all of that, I'm going to take you to where do we find the people with these strengths? This is a spreadsheet of an organization, and there's more than 50 in this particular spreadsheet. We've organized this spreadsheet, and you can see in the top row the colored names. Those are the different quadrant categories. So they're ordered so that the strength that has the most people with that strength is in the first column, and then the second column, and the third column, and so forth. So this gives you a spread of the concentration of particular strengths. When we start looking for the people with the strengths that we need, we can look for people that have the most of the strengths that we've defined. Maybe they've got 2, maybe they've got 3 of the strengths we feel are essential. Or they may be the only person that has one of the strengths we feel are essential. So we begin with that short list of individuals, and then we refine it again. Once we've refined it and looked at some of the intangibles, have they worked together before? What's the working relationship been like? Do we have a stabilizer? Do we have the right subject matter expertise? All of that. Then we define the team, and we make sure we're clear about what we're trying to achieve. So then we bring them back into our room, and we go through the launching process. What's the project? What's the goal and the mission? What are the key criteria? What are the constraints we see that you might face? Why did we pick you? What strengths did we feel were essential? And then ask for their input and their feedback. Is there something we're missing? Is there something that they feel is needed to help them be successful? So to finish the story about the insurance premium increase, they were able to get it under 10%. Now this was a team that spoke English as a second language. They were on the factory floor. They were hourly workers, and they met with the insurance agent for the company and walked through the policy and looked at things that they could do, such as having a workout area and having a room for nursing mothers, improving their first aid areas, taking out some of the things in the policy that really weren't being used, and then finally providing the insurance company with better health data on the employees. This was a great win for the company. It was a great win for the people who were on the project and for the employees. And this was the catalyst that spurred this process throughout the company. Now, this process is easy to do if you've got a large enough organization and you want them to learn how to work more together across traditional lines. This is a great tool. And I'll be happy to help you do a prototype or walk through how to do this. I've been able to successfully apply this on project teams as well. What we've done is we've created a list of what we called hot topics. And those hot topics are open issues that aren't under any particular individual's responsibility. And what we do is when we have the big room meetings and we've got everybody involved, if you're not specifically involved in the conversation, then your job is to go over and grab a couple individuals and look at a hot topic and take care of it. So this is a self-empowered project team handling issues that always come up that somehow fall through the crack a little bit, and make sure that we're taking care of what Clay Shirky calls cognitive surplus, in other words, idle time, and optimizing it for the mission of the project or for the team. This also parallels the process Stanley McChrystal used to rapidly accelerate the missions that they were able to execute and make them more relevant to the conditions that they were executing in. This is a process perfectly designed for the current conditions that we have with distributed work, work from home, going across organizational boundaries and leveraging and optimizing the time that we've got and helping people feel that they're really involved in projects that make a difference with people that they can work collaboratively with and have success. So let's try this out. Let's look for an opportunity, a prototype. Let me walk you through it. In 2021, we're going to be working in new kinds of ways. I think this one is particularly designed to be effective for what we've got to work with right now. Take care.